Hi folks, welcome to MixMaster. This is our first session. This is a project partnership with KKFI, Silly Goose Records, Crossroads Music Festival. my name is Carswell. We're going to talk a little bit more and go through introductions, but first off, I wanted to play a video from one of our other partners, Midwest Music Foundation, who are a fantastic organization, and they have some information if you're a musician and an artist, songwriter, performer, you need to know about their grants that they're doing. So I'm going to play a message while we're letting people kind of file in and catch the streams and join the Zoom and do all the other magic. So here's a message from Rhonda Line from Midwest Music Foundation. So stand by.
Hello, I'm Rhonda Line, Executive Director of the Midwest Music Foundation. We are a Kansas City-based nonprofit whose mission is to support our area musicians. These have been incredibly difficult times for our music community, as it has for so many others. The music industry has been hit particularly hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, with many musicians and music industry workers out of work for several months. One way we are here to offer support is through our COVID Relief Fund. These are small grants intended to help with immediate assistance. We have also guided musicians and music industry workers to other resources through our website, midwestmusicfoundation.org. If you are a musician in need, you can go to our website and fill out a simple application. In addition to our COVID Relief Fund, we also have Abby's Fund for Musicians Healthcare. These are grants intended to help musicians with medical urgent needs. Both funds are available through our website, midwestmusicfoundation.org. So far, we have given out $87,000 in assistance through our COVID Relief Fund and over $230,000 through Abby's Fund. If you are in need, please apply. If you can help, please donate at midwestmusicfoundation.org. Thank you.
There you go. That was from Midwest Music Foundation, their COVID Relief Fund. Go ahead and check out that. And of course, you can always donate to Midwest Music Foundation as you can to KKFI. So again, I'm Nick Carswell. If you're just joining us, welcome. I'm going to very soon hand it over to Mark Manning, but I just wanted to let you know what this is. MixMaster has been happening since 2014 as a gathering of artists, songwriters, and music industry folks, a place to a kind of unique, dedicated time to talk about what concerns us as independent artists, musicians, small businesses, all those things that we are, and a chance to learn from each other, learn from our experiences. Very much peer-based. So if you're watching this, once I stop talking, I'm going to get onto the Zoom and make sure that we're all have the opportunity to share comments and questions, and please encourage you to do that. And I wanted to also let you know this is the first of 3. The next week we are having I have it written down here so I wouldn't have to remember. Next week, our topic is connecting with audiences in COVID times. Of course, the context for all of this is the pandemic. Ordinarily, we would offer a lot of practical information about how to get your music played on the radio, how to book gigs, those kinds of things. It's a little different this year for obvious reasons that I'm not going to start talking about. But so the topics are slightly different, but all the folks featured have vast experience, so we want to make sure that you're making the most of the experience that we have, and you'll ask questions and share your comments and thoughts. That's highly encouraged. Next week, so connecting with audiences, and then the third in the series is called Keeping the Lights On, and it's about the wider challenges that the industry faces and how we might kind of tackle those together. So they're kind of big topics, but we're not going to solve all the answers in a couple of webinars, but it's a chance to share some thoughts, and you'll hopefully pick up some tricks and tips to deal with things and to stay creative and stay well. And that's exactly why we're starting with what we're starting today. So I'm going to stop talking, step back, and hand it over to Mark Manning, who has gracefully volunteered to lead the discussion here today. And so that's over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. My pleasure to be here today. I love all of the people on the panel so much. And I just wanted to do a little introduction of everybody on the panel. Some people might be used to my introductions. Some people say they're a little bit long. Sorry about that. Originally from Kansas City, Krystle Warren learned to play guitar by listening to Rubber Soul and Revolver from the Beatles. Krystle graduated from Paseo Arts Academy in 2001 and began her musical career collaborating with area jazz and pop musicians. After living in San Francisco and New York City, Krystle was signed to the French label Because Music, who gave her a one-way ticket to France, where she moved and released what was essentially her debut album, Circles, in 2009. And she played all over British television and French television, including later with Jules Holland and other shows, and then touring with Rufus Wainwright, Nick Cave, Norah Jones, Jonas Policewoman. Krystle ended up leaving Because Music and creating her own recording label, Parlor Door Music, where she released Love Songs, which was a special double album that was recorded in a 13-day session in Brooklyn with 28 musicians, including her band, The Faculty, with choirs, horn sections, string sections. Last year, Owen Cox Dance Ensemble brought this recording to life with a special show choreographed by Jennifer Owen, set to all 24 songs as they appear on the record, and it was amazing. Krystle's collaborated with Erykah Badu, Zap Mama, Teddy Thompson, Hercules and the Love Affair, June Moon. In 2017, she released Three the Hard Way, and last year she released the single Rising, which was part of the soundtrack to the Anna DuVernay television series When They See Us. And her band are working on a new album that's going to be released sometime very soon. Krystle Warren, thank you for being with us today.
Howdy, thank you for having me.
So good to see you. Also with us is Kelvin Arsenia, who many people don't know, was born in Orlando, Florida. And he really started being musically creative after moving to Olathe, Kansas, where he taught himself guitar and eventually the harp, which is sort of his signature instrument. And he has found a way to play rock, folk, R&B, rap, and fuse all these together with the beautiful playing of harp and banjo and guitar. He was on a trip to Edinburgh, Scotland, to the Fringe Festival, where he was offered a job to work as a musical liaison for a church there. And he spent 2 years there and did over 300 shows. He came back to Kansas City with a whole new passion and a whole new zest for music. He's released the EPs Moments, Prose, Catastrophe, Caviar. In 2017, a full-length album called Catastrophe. He was signed to Center Cut Records and released Cantaloupe in 2018 and LA Sessions in 2019. Last year, he not only released a full-length album, but also the EP Honeydew, and also an EP with Quixotic, and a Christmas album called All Is Calm. He's voted Casey's Best Musician in 2018 and 19 by The Pitch, and been featured in Billboard, NPR, New Now Next, Pride.com, Grammy.com. We all know his beautiful voice and his amazing 6'6" presence, or 6'7", right? And last week he did an amazing show down at Lemonade Park, and we just love him so much. Kelvin Arsenia, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. Also with us is Erin McGrane, a musician, vocalist, songwriter, actress, TV host, producer, poet, and teacher, and real estate agent. Also, she's known by so many people as Penny of Victor and Penny, who we know play amazing music, with her partner, Jeff Freeling, who played with the Blue Man Group as a guitarist, and is one of the greatest guitarists this side of the Mississippi, in my opinion. He's amazing. They've made thousands of public appearances, traveling hundreds and thousands of miles all across the country, being showcased by Folk Alliance International, and released numerous full-length albums and singles, and they perform with the Loose Change Orchestra. Erin is also the founder of bands like A La Cartuna, Blue Museum, Swinging Six. She's recorded with the Barclay Martin Ensemble, Johnny Hamill's God Project, David George, Cody, Wyoming. She appeared in many film and television programs and on stage with Guerrilla Theater, Coterie Theater. She was in the original cast of the Kansas City production of Plan 9 from Outer Space, and was in the Oscar-nominated Up in the Air with George Clooney, and was in a really amazing short film called Two Sisters, made by Anthony Loddish, which is a beautiful film. She's also the host of Cinema KC for Kansas City Public Television, and she's also a published poet. Her first poem was published when she was 10 years old in a third grade poetry contest for Iowa Poetry Day Association, And her first book of poetry is called Overtones, and it was published in 2016 by Spartan Press and Prosperos. And she's received many grants, the Inspiration Grant, Mid-America Arts Alliance Professional Development Grant, and she's an Artist Inc. Fellow where she's a peer facilitator. And you can get more information at victorandpenny.com. Erin McGrane, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
And also with us is Nick Carswell, who's originally from Limerick, Ireland, and has been living in Lawrence since 2011. He formed Carswell and Hope in 2012, and they went on a 2-week Irish tour, and he's produced solo shows like his show last year, Changing Shades, and he's performed at the Irish Center in KC, the Lawrence Arts Center. He's an Arts Inspiration Grant recipient, and he's the founder of Silly Goose Records, and also part of the band Pink Royal too. And he will be playing at KC Irish Fest, where you are, a benefit concert this Saturday night, along with Erin and Jeff and Kelvin and a number of other musicians in town, which will be really exciting. Nick Carswell is the founder of MixMaster and all of this great stuff we're doing today. Nick, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Mark. I made my introduction of you look like a big pile of rubbish, but
well, all of you are so connected and so involved in so many aspects of music and collaboration. And, you know, COVID-19 just sort of stopped all of us in our tracks. All music venues and theaters and Broadway and touring shows all just closed down in mid-March and canceling flights. Krystle, you were on your way to a flight to come to Kansas City to do a benefit show here and also to do a photo shoot with your band. And then all of a sudden the flight's canceled and everything just stops. Can you take us back to that day and what was going through your life at that time?
Yes, I can. Though it feels like it was a year ago.
I know. It was like 5 months ago, right?
Yeah. I was in my former kitchen. I've just recently moved with Mr. Jeff Harshbarger. He was in town, and suddenly both of our phones just started glowing. He was getting a text from Chad Mize saying, hurry up and get to Kansas City immediately. And I was getting text from my bandmate saying, do not come. And it was right after Trump had made the announcement that the borders were closing. And I was going to be catching a train to the airport in about 4 or 5 hours or so. Again, Jeff Harshbarger was in my kitchen, so the chances of getting a good night's rest kind of flew out the window. But yeah, funny enough, you know, at some point I was having a text with Kansas City's own Ashley Fairchild-Jones, who Calvin knows very well. And they were both basically saying, oh, just screw it, come on over anyway. But the fear was that I wouldn't be able to get out, you know, that I wouldn't be able to get back to my better half and engagements that I had here. So yeah, everything just kind of flipped on its head. And you know, I'm okay. I'm pleased with the decision that I made, sort of, because no offense, folks stateside, but it's a real shit show over there, as far as to mask, to not mask, you know, all of that madness. But at the same time, as you mentioned before, Mark, there were things that I was really excited to do. So, yeah.
I had a ticket to your show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. No, it still is a huge disappointment. You know, we were all really excited about getting together to play and to help out Ashley as well, but we just knew it was going to be a really swell evening, you know. So hopefully, you know, knock on wood, spring 2021, we'll see. I can't remember your question.
Well,
actually, I feel like I was venting there.
I mean, how have you have had a unique perspective being in France, watching us, because our country's dealt with this so different than Europe.
Right.
And people, I mean, when we have like 4% of the world's population and what 25 to 30% of the COVID cases in the world, and what do people think about what's going on here?
Well, I think people are definitely concerned for the States. It just seems like the States has fallen off the deep end, but at the same time, leadership is lacking in Europe as well. You know, you look at the UK; they have Boris Johnson.
Right.
Here we have the poster boy of neoliberalism, where it's the same thing. You know, I'm my better half is an educator. Are the precautions being made to ensure that everyone is safe, which would really be everyone just staying home? No. Here, it's economy that is the priority. So, you know, it's different degrees of crazy. But I think that is, as far as the utter just distrust in science, nothing resembles what's happening in the States right now. So yeah, I think that there's just a huge concern that we've completely lost it, you know.
Wow.
So the people in France aren't drinking bleach and Windex or like.
Maybe a drop of it with a nice red, but no. By and large, yeah, the response to it has been drastically different. I mean, how are you guys feeling? Being, I'm curious to know, how does it feel for you at this time, being stateside with this happening?
I was going to say, last Saturday night, I went to my first live show in 5 months. And I went and saw Kelvin at Lemonade Park, which is a space that Steve Tulipana and Wes Gardner from Voltaire kind of created outside. And Kelvin, that was one of your first live shows in about 5 months also, wasn't it?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I performed with Quixotic, and it was a similar situation, but this was the first like full set of music that I'd done. Yeah.
Did you feel safe in that venue?
That's a very interesting question. I mean, the venue, yes, absolutely. In the world right now, not at all. So like everything that the venue did at Lemonade Park, it was immaculate, and I think they did a great job, and they're doing a great job. And if that's, you know, if you're stir crazy and you want to do something that is safe, I highly recommend it. But I think that in general, my thoughts around being in public at all, or like seeing anybody, it's just like, there's a lot of anxiety around, you know, walking into a grocery store and you park your car and you see 10 cars and you're like, wait, do I even want to go in here? Like, you know, it's just like that severe. So yeah, I think Lemonade Park is fantastic, but I feel very strange playing now.
I agree with you, Calvin. I think it's because we're, what I can't remember if it was Krystle and Mark was saying, you know, we have such a spectrum of masking, not masking, anti-masking, like it's just all over the park, and it doesn't seem to be, it's not just one demographic or at all, like people are believing or not believing science for all different kinds of reasons. So you just don't know where people are with it. So I take it really seriously. But I don't know that everybody else does. I think Lemonade Park is doing the best. I mean, I think they're really taking it super seriously, but I always just wonder about the random people out there. I was out for lunch, which I've not gone out for lunch at all. And this is just one of those things. Just this week on Thursday, met a friend at an outdoor patio. It's the first time I'd been to a restaurant with not my spouse. Oh, we don't even go to restaurants, but anyway, outside, distanced on this patio. And there was a homeless person, or a person that was on drugs, definitely having a lot of problems, came up to the patio, and the owners came out and gave him water and a bag of cookies and some snacks, and he said he was hungry. And then he just freaked out, and one of the waiters came over to ask him to leave, and he got really mad at her, and he spit in her face, like full on. And he said, I'm going to spit in your face. I'm going to spit in your face. I'm going to give you the virus. And he spit on her, and, you know, it was so shocking. And I thought, that's just, I don't know. America feels like it's kind of fraying at the edges right now. And so I'm kind of with you, Calvin. Like, there's a lot of anxiety about just being out. Yeah. And so it's not really about if the venue is doing a good job, but I think they are definitely, and they're really controlling who goes in and out, and you have to buy a ticket and all that stuff. So, but the parking lot at Costco.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's so weird. It's so hard.
It's so weird. Yeah, and if we were all on the same page, maybe I think I'd feel a little better about it, but we're not.
Early on in the pandemic, I was on the radio and I realized, well, we can keep doing radio shows and I can just do them all over the phone. And I decided it's a good time to call all my favorite people because they're all going to be home right now. So I did an interview with a performance artist that I love named Tim Miller, and he talked about the artist as a first responder. And it seemed to me that musicians and artists were like the first people to really take COVID seriously and buckle down, even though we are the people losing all the work, all the music venues, theaters, all these places closed down. And I remember, Nick, early on, I remember you were doing early streaming concerts from your driveway, right? From your house. Your wife was filming you in your driveway, right? Well, and I had so much fun watching them because she's not only filming you, but she's also wrangling the two little kids who are also part of the picture.
Yeah, we had a kind of a particularly funny one because St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, I don't hold all the dates straight in my head, but I know March 24th was the Monday, was the stay-at-home order in Kansas. So that's when it all kind of became real, and we knew we had to take real action. And then we, of course, started thinking, well, how long is, the mental gymnastics started about what are we going to do and how long is this going to happen and go on for. But St. Patrick's Day, so, we usually have several shows booked on March 17th, which was a Tuesday, so, and that was the first one where we had to really deliberate about, well, like, let's, do we just, this kind of conversation and again, this thought process that we've all had many times, depending on how far out you plan things, you gotta, I think it was my buddy Krystle Warren, who we all know, says you gotta keep planning until you're not planning anymore. You gotta plan that it's going to happen until it doesn't. But that St. Patrick's Day for us, which is a big day usually, that was the first time we were, well, that was the first show that we kind of actively, we didn't wait for anyone else to cancel it on us. We said, look, and honestly, the thing that made my mind up was, well, we're, when I was reading the news and I was completely clued into it, plugged in probably too much, but the big realization for me was, well, I wouldn't feel comfortable asking any fans to come to the show. And that was like, oh, well, that's obvious. We got to cancel it. Because, why would we do that? If we're not going to put ourselves, so you're thinking of yourself, you're thinking of the fans, you're thinking of course, the venue, you don't want to leave anyone hanging. But yeah, and when that all, the timing was interesting. And then, yeah, I totally had knee-jerk live stream shows. I set up my piano in my garage. It's still there. And I just turned it on and streamed. And I didn't really know what I was doing. Kind of hadn't given it a whole lot of thought. And I just felt I had to do something. So artists as first responders is interesting. I don't know if we're always, personally speaking, if I'm well equipped to respond correctly, but I might respond quickly, and you can't really help. There's also just the practice of, all of a sudden, if you're planning gigs and events for the next 3 weekends and all of a sudden you have no weekends. I mean, I was literally spinning wheels a little bit. So, I think getting on and streaming for St. Patrick's Day was oddly placed national pride or whatever on that day, and that was involved the family and all that. But I think since then it's been there was a whole process to kind of slow down and think about where we are. So some knee-jerk stuff early on, and just I think as we were all just trying to really understand what was happening.
I love that artist is first responder. I wonder too, because we spend so much time in the public, all of us have, it's just a big part of being a performing artist is being out there with the public and meeting everybody. It's not like a job 8 to 5 where you sit and you see the same 10 people you work with every day. So maybe we feel a little closer to it, but that I had never heard that phrase or had that thought, but I really like it. And I certainly will say for myself, both Jeff and I felt that way. We're just helpless. Like the first thing you feel is just helpless. And the same thing, I don't want to put anyone in danger. I don't want to put my guys in danger. You know, one of my guys has got little kids at home and like just all the things. But I also don't want them to be out of work. And I don't want to be out of work. It was zero warning. And so you try to figure out, but we decided to do a fundraiser really early, April 6th.
I remember that.
And we ended up raising $20,000 for MMF, which was a big part of those short funds. And that felt so, we partnered with Heartland Song Network, which I had just started forming with Diana Ennis and Danny Powell and Bo Bledsoe and Julie and Rex and Deb. But we just felt like, what can we do right now? Because there didn't seem to be any long-term answer emerging at all. Just more questions. No one had any answers in March. And what I was amazed was the enormous response from the arts community. I saw a lot of artists giving into the fund. And then, of course, the arts supporters just came through in a huge fashion. And that alone kept me going for a couple months. The energy of knowing that, look, we're not going to be in the gutter. Everybody's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. Those little cash grants didn't last very long, but it felt important to do something right away. And that seemed, I'll never forget that in terms of Kansas City's ability to come together really quickly and support. I think I don't know if we're unique that way. It feels like we're unique that way. That felt really good.
It's amazing because you just basically answered my next question I was going to ask you, which was about how when the quarantine happened and everything shut down, musicians were the first people to start doing live streaming. And you and Jeff were one of the first groups to do a big fundraiser. And then since then, we've had quite a few, and you've been a part of many of them, like the KC Bands Together, and this next Saturday night, the Irish Fest, wherever you are. And it seems like we're learning how to do it better and better each time we do these, with like the sound quality and the transmission quality and how people receive it. Can you just talk a little bit about what you love the most about streaming and what you hate the most about streaming? And we could all talk about this too, really.
I'll just finish where I was and I'll let you guys talk. That first one, we really didn't know what we were doing. Our original thought was that Jeff and I were going to sit in his studio, kind of like in our jammies, you know, just casual at home, not Victor and Penny like, but just Erin and Jeff, and just kind of play acoustically. And that just was not working for us. And we had John Story come and bring sound equipment. We couldn't get the sound right. The lights looked terrible. Nothing about it felt right or authentic. It was just so awkward. And then finally we're like, we need to do this as much like we actually do our shows. So we put on our black clothes and we put on our dress clothes and we stood up. We cleared out our front room, which is still empty now because we've done a number of streams down there, set up our full Bose system, got a tripod and a camera and did the thing. And then it felt much better. And so once we got that figured out, that helped. What I love about it is that first fundraiser, we had people, we haven't been touring in California for a couple of years, and we had people from California show up and we're like, oh my God, we haven't seen you guys play live. And to them, it was like watching us play live, even though it was over the internet. And I kind of had a big light bulb then about, oh, okay, this actually removes geography from the equation. It's not perfect, but it certainly felt real to me. Like I felt weepy several times, especially during that first one. It was just, people were so generous. And then so many people were tuning in from all over. Seemed like everybody just needed a hug. Like everybody just needed to sort of like reach out and touch each other. And that live stream did that. I think we decided early on to not, kind of the musicians, and maybe tell me what you guys think, have kind of gone two ways. There's either the people that are saying, I'm streaming every single day at noon, one song, or I'm doing every Friday night, my thing, concert, or you know, that kind of thing. Or some people are saying, I'm not doing live streaming and I'm going to save and do more big events. Jeff and I decided to do that. So, and to do mostly fundraisers, since we felt pretty okay during this time, although no one knew it was still going to be going on in September. But at that time, we felt pretty good. So we've done the Folly, we did Union Station, we've done the Unicorn Theater, MMF, Heartland Song Network, Bands Across KC, Irish Fest. So we've tried to partner with some of some of our larger arts organizations to contribute and help keep them healthy on a larger scale. Because if we lose our arts organizations and venues, we're in real trouble too. So we decided to kind of put our efforts that way, but there's no right or wrong. I think everybody's done it differently. It's certainly getting a lot more comfortable. No audience response is weird, but you get used to it, you know, no clapping. But I don't know. I've gotten used to it. What do you guys think?
Kelvin, you did lots of streaming in the early pandemic months. You did a Monday show, a Tuesday show, a Wednesday banjo lesson, right? And you kind of changed your course in the middle of all of this, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so my initial thing, because that was basically what my performance schedule was like in real life. It was just always to different people. So I would have a Monday night thing and a Tuesday night thing and a Wednesday day thing, and but a part of what makes music fun for me is being able to perform in different spaces all the time, and that this is probably the first time that somebody is seeing me. You know, that's kind of what I get off on, and so then after a month and a half of kind of basically the same, very kind but the same 20 people, or the same 40 people, it's just I don't have enough energy to learn new songs to make this exciting for me to be showing something that's new. So then
I love your bedroom though.
I know, right? We're always here. But and then I kind of changed a little bit of my branding too, because I tend to be kind of quiet and stuff on social media, but then I was on there all the time, and then I was doing this kids thing, and then I don't know, it's just a way different way that I was normally engaging with social media and stuff. And then around the murder of George Floyd and all of the cultural and racial revolution that we are experiencing here in the States, I just couldn't look at a silent camera with the smile on anymore. I just couldn't stop crying, and I was just didn't feel like it was being authentic for me to try to put on a happy face and do that anymore. So I just stopped and turned and use this time as a way to learn about my history and American history and the city's history and who I am in the midst of that. And I'm really grateful for that time, even though it's been difficult, but I'm still grateful.
I love your new music that you've written in response to this too, Kelvin, and I want to talk more about this. I want to jump over to Krystle really quick, and one of the things I love about Krystle, well, I love all about Krystle. I love her music so much, but whenever there's a Krystle show, there's also a gathering of all of those people that love Krystle in Kansas City, and it's such a beautiful time of sharing. And Andy Warhol said, "I have a social disease. I want to go out every night," and I'm like that. I want to go out every night, and COVID-19 has cut off my social, and I'm one of those people that need to be with people. And I know, Krystle, you're that way too. Where do you get your social? How do you find that? How do you fill that up for yourself?
Well, tell you what, when I'm back home, when I'm in KC and I get to hang out with you guys and have some porch time, that fills me up for a year, So when I come back here, I'm fairly monk-like, if we disregard the drinking and the smoking, pretty much pretty mellow, So, yeah, I suppose that in this time, I've been doing what I usually do. I catch up with Solomon fairly often. We have some FaceTime chats, and I've been checking in with my family a lot more, for sure, to make sure they're okay.
Just Solomon Dorsey is a bass player that you went to high school with and have collaborated.
Yeah,
we've
known each other. In fact, he just turned. I shouldn't say the number actually. I think that he's still telling everyone he's 27 or something. But no, we've known each other for a long time, and yeah, we try to check in quite often. But no, I haven't really been going mad in that regard.
Have you experienced any kind of pandemic craziness or pandemic depression?
Not when I read the news, sure, you know.
Right.
But as far as you know, home life and things of that sort, I mean, you know, the first month into it, well, this lasted for a good 2 months actually. I was just on margaritas. She was having rosé. You know, it's 6 o'clock. It's time for apero. And then, you know, by the fourth month, you kind of don't want to be in the same room together, let alone have another margarita. So, uh, you know, it was an experience in that way of just like, you know, starting to experience a bit of just, I want to be out. I want to take a walk, you know, and just have a stroll without feeling that someone's going to have a sneeze or whatever.
Right.
But one thing that has kept me busy, I'd say it was about a month into it that I started getting requests from the States, venues around asking if I would be willing to be a part of benefits that they were putting together. And like what Erin and Calvin explained, especially Erin, it's quite tricky getting your head around, okay, now I have to set this thing up and does this sound okay? Is this clipping? Is it distorting? What have you? And as I tend to make things as complicated as possible, as you described when you were explaining how love songs came about, I asked my buddies, "Hey, would you guys like to do some songs with me?" So then it was juggling 9-hour differences, you know, between here and Los Angeles, 6 hours between here and New York, 7 hours, you know, things of that sort. But it was fun because you also got to spend some time with the music makers in your life and make a bit of noise. But like what Calvin was saying, at some point I was thinking, this is actually stressing me out more than I would prefer, because so much time goes into preparing, and I started to feel self-conscious as well. It kind of, I'm just going to put this out there. There isn't one television performance that I've ever done that I'm pleased about. I wish that I could scrub the internet clean, you know, like none of these things ever happened.
Wow.
And it's usually because I get so nervous that I goof. And, you know, just setting my phone up in the hallway in my house, playing this tune, oh, fuck, you know, because you missed a chord or, you know, you flubbed a lyric, and so then you do it all over again. And it's just reminded me, actually, it's just confirmed for me that I love the live setting, warts and all, because then it's part of the fabric of that evening. And suddenly being the director, producer, you know, performer all in one,
Yeah.
you know, I just started thinking, wow, this is hell for most of us, you know, wet dream probably for promoters, not you, Chris, but, you know, how can we cram all of these things in there and not, you know, spend a lot of money on the performer? But yeah, I mean, there are good things about it. I've enjoyed watching other people's performances for sure. For me personally, yeah, I've just been still piecing together stuff with the band and trying to wrap up the record, and you know, trying to do what we're all trying to do, I suppose, and that's just kind of get on with it somehow.
I just want to tell you something. One of my ways of getting through this pandemic is I'm playing you every week on the radio show. That just helps
Bless
me.
your heart.
And I'm like, I don't care what anybody says. This is going to be one of those ways that I'm going to help get through this this time. So thank you for all of that beautiful music that you've made for all of us. For everybody on the panel, I find this to be a very, very cruel pandemic. that we're living through, and it's taken so many lives, and it's just, it freaks me out, the numbers. And many of us lived through the AIDS pandemic and watched a government turn its back on people dying, and that's happening now also all over again. And our president has made it more cruel through his very own leadership. And Nick, do you want to go first? Do you want to comment on this and how you as an artist respond to the time we're living in as being so difficult, and yet our leadership is failing us in such a great way? And how do you as an artist put all that together in your creative brain and deal with that?
Pass? No. Well, you know, we do. I think one thing is we don't realize, we're not always aware of how we're doing it. And that's one thing that I kind of slowly realized over time with the pandemic. And it's also just, you know, being aware of your mood and your energy. I think that's part of it. I will say now I'm in a house with 2 small kids, and that is a big part of my mood and energy all the time. So, you know, early on evenings, like 10 p.m. when we do, you know, at least 9:30, 10 p.m., they're both asleep. That became a really weird time in those first few weeks. Like, the house is quiet. You step out the back deck, the whole neighborhood is quiet. The whole world seemingly is quiet. Everyone's kind of locked up. And then, you know, I mean, personally, we knew we weren't going to have any leadership through this at all. I mean, we knew that. I think that doesn't mean to say that we, you know, anything is expected about how bad things can get in terms of what we all need to do individually and as a society and as a government and at every level of government. I mean, we live in Lawrence. I have a day job with KU. There is leadership, but we're not getting it from the very top. And on the contrary, we're getting, you know, lies. We're getting political lies to a political end, and that clearly aren't concerned with looking after people. So, I mean, that is in harsh contrast with what we all feel all of a sudden, especially as performers. You know, I mean, listening to folks talk about the live stream, you know, it is the applause, but it's also just the live connection. It is the mistakes. It's not just the applause at the end of the song. It's imperceptible things throughout the song, you know, throughout an entire performance. And, you know, we kind of realize more and more that we're missing that. And I think, you know, Calvin, who's said about, you know, songs to make it interesting for yourself. I don't love my own music that much to make it interesting enough to just sit, you know, to do it day in, day out. You know what I mean? I know that I feel like there's more of an interaction to it. So anyway, the connection to people is what kind of is where the turmoil is. And then, of course, yeah, the murder of George Floyd. I mean, we had, you know, by that point we were trying to produce things, trying to put things online, and all of a sudden, wow, that is so pointless. Why would we post anything? It was my feeling. You know, like we first of all, as a white person, we should just shut the hell up and just listen and understand and do what we can. And then secondarily, as an artist, you know, this song I was going to put out, well, you know, why am I putting that out now? And, you know, now I do think there is a role to soothing, just simply soothing, just putting out music that soothes. And I've seen that, and it's pretty special when you get messages, just something you didn't think very much of, you just threw online and somebody says, thank you so much, you know, just a simple message, or, you know, maybe it's a Venmo payment or something, you know, whatever it ends up being, there's ways to get that interaction. So, but, you know, I mean, we got the sense that we're kind of on our own, you know, as individuals, certainly with leaderships, with things that needed to happen and didn't, not to mind people actively going out of their way to deny things and all of that. So, you know, we kind of, I feel like as artists and as people, you know, people and community members, we started looking to each other, and I think that's kind of where we still are. And, you know, I think people have patience with each other, whether it's Zoom meetings and, you know, even just walking around the neighborhood, the exchanges you have with your neighbors when you see them. I know those people, I never would have known them more than just a passing glance, and now we can chat. And so all of those connections are all out there. I think the question on how we can make the most of it as an artist and how we can use, you know, run with that to share what we want to achieve with our music, that's a bigger question. But yeah, so that's a long answer. I should have passed.
No, you're good. Good going.
It's a hard question though, isn't it? Because it seems like when we first started out, I'd been working on a body of work that was about anxiety and isolation called Sounds Like a Feeling. And I was really excited about it. And that felt so right. And we did a little live stream to present some of that new material in April. And it just resonated with people because suddenly everyone understands what you mean by isolation and free floating anxiety, like sort of Damocles. I don't even know why I feel so anxious, but I can't go to sleep. And then with the murders and then the protesting and then the violence it seems like just when you were getting your mind around, okay, here's the thing that's going to be the thing we need to work on, then another horrible thing would happen right after it. And it happened, I have my hair standing up on my arms. It's happened so fast. It's like overwhelming to my emotional system. Like I can't even process it all. And I can't process it quick enough to turn it back around to say something yet. So, and part of it for me, I feel almost shut down. Like I can still work on the anxiety and isolation because I'd already been working on that. But to try to make an artistic statement about everything else that's going on, I'm so angry. I'm so disappointed. I don't even have words to describe my own feelings yet. Nonetheless, I'm sort of like some strong guiding light for anyone else. Do you guys feel that way too? And it just keeps coming. I mean, and then the numbers are still going up, and now the kids, and like it's just it's
Kelvin, do you want to come into this conversation and share with?
I mean, just it's I can relate to all of that. I can relate to all of that because it's like what can I say when because before this, we were so, I mean, I know I was incredibly busy, and I was running around and going from this thing to that thing and then to have months of reflection and to have like all the opportunity even to begin to process any of these things is like the first time that I've been able to do that ever in my life. And it'd be one thing if we could just go out and distract ourselves and go out and go have the shows and go have the gatherings and the dinners and the drinks and all the things and going. But a lot of that stuff we don't have as a coping mechanism. It's just not, we don't have it. So it's like we only have the ability to face ourselves right now. And again, I think that's beautiful and terrible all at once.
When I talked to you on the radio 2 weeks ago, Kelvin, you reminded me of how we have to take care of ourselves. Can you talk about that? And how is this something that you are part of your daily rituals?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can't heal other people unless we're healed ourselves. And when we're wounded and bleeding, we're not as effective at helping others as if we would just get ourselves figured out a little bit and then assist. It's just like the airplane and the mask. Like the oxygen mask, not the COVID mask. Because if we are not in a place of peace or calm or just settled, grounded, solid, or at least heading in that direction, then we could exacerbate the problem, I think. So whatever you need to do to feel like to be attached to something that is stable, I think that's something that we have to prioritize now.
Krystle, when I introduced you, I did leave out a big important part of your bio. And that's one of the reasons it wasn't just that because music sent you a one-way ticket to Paris, you also met someone there and fell in love and got married and started a whole new life with like you say, your other half there. And everybody on the panel has that special partner or husband or wife. And that's like, I know for me, that's been so helpful to me. Is that been a big, between you and your partner, have you like helped each other get through all of this? Her being a teacher too, I'm sure being a teacher right now is a lot like being a musician, it's the same kind of landmines through all of this, right?
Exactly. It wasn't too long into the lockdown that happened here, which was shortly after Trump had announced that the borders were closing to Europe. that it kind of, well, it hit her. She hadn't realized initially why I decided to stay. Her thought was really all of these plane tickets, that aren't being used. What are you thinking? And I remember that following Friday, she came home and was giddy, and she goes, "Well, no school on Monday." Like the gravity of the situation hadn't quite hit, But when it did, we just both turned to each other and we just, I'm so happy that that we're here together. The idea of us having to check in from so many miles apart, not really knowing how the other one was doing. We're already two peas in a pod. We're very close, but going through this, it's frightening, and it's good to be frightened with somebody next to you, but also, we try to keep a cool head about it too. So it's not a supercharged home of us, wearing foil hats or whatever, waiting to be beamed back. But we're very fortunate that we're able to ride through this together. And one of the things that Calvin had mentioned as well of, both Calvin and Erin have, and I definitely feel what you were saying about just feeling overwhelmed of numbers raising every day. I believe I was talking with my mother about this, but the movement that has been building, that has been inspiring. Watching from this side of the pond, just thinking, wow, this is incredible. Where did it come from? And it hit me that it would not exist were we not in the middle of a pandemic. Like any other time, we'd be able to just blow off some steam, go to a bar, meet up with friends, see a show. But we all have to stay home and watch this, That's all we can do. So then what do you do with all of this, for some, new knowledge, for others, this reality that has been there for as long as they've walked the earth, But the fact that it's blown to such a point that, people are taking the streets, and that is deeply inspiring. And in some way, I suppose, I'm an optimist to a fault, but I feel like with this movement, it just gives me hope that something is shifting, like something is truly, truly shifting. Speaking as a queer African-American chick, seeing so many people in the streets who don't look like me,
Right.
Like that is huge. And I think that it's saying that the conversation is really becoming a conversation. Now what? What's going to happen now? Like, are we really going to get our hands dirty and rebuild this and, get these pricks out of the, I don't know if the language that is pouring out of my mouth is suitable for this conversation. I don't know what the rules are, but I think you get the gist of where I'm going. I hope that this is an indicator of a great sea change.
Yes, I agree. It seems like from Ferguson, Missouri to what happened this year with George Floyd and his death, we've come so far. And like you said, suburban white women are out in the streets in Portland, Oregon, protesting against the police. And it does remind me of the earlier pandemic of ACT UP, being out in the streets. People had to go to the streets to save lives, and we have to do it again. And I know, like Kelvin, you talked about this, about how this has had a huge effect on you, and it's something that you kind of might have been neglecting in your life until now, right?
Yeah. I mean, just like Krystle said, there, like, I don't know, we all know this. Like, this wouldn't have happened without. I mean, it's such a dichotomy between really appreciating the growth that we've all kind of been forced through, or at least maybe I should say we had the opportunity to use. I'm sure that there are lots of people who have only just exhausted the catalog of Netflix and then got Hulu and exhausted that catalog and then got Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that there has been a great opportunity for us to take a step back and look at ourselves and look at our country and look at our species ultimately. And one of the things that I keep coming back to is that the police are only a symptom of this grander problem, which is the United States, and that this country was built on the notion that you can own someone else's body, and this country was built with imaginary borders that justified genocide. And in fact, if you start there, you have to look back and where did they learn it from, and that's how colonization and imperialism and you know all this stuff. I mean, so this is not a new problem. These are not new issues. And I'm curious to see, you know, now giving our technology and our ability to communicate and our passion and our zeal, can we finally do something better as a species? I want to believe that we can, but trying something new or doing everything the same way and then expecting a different answer, that's insanity, right? So I'm just like, how do we do this differently? And that's my question right now. I was like, what does that even look like? And I was very involved in my church and have a lot of conservative people in my past, and so because of that very reason, I've been avoiding Facebook like the plague. And I just was on there a couple days ago, kind of just like very cautiously scrolling and seeing all these people that I used to be in really close relationship with, who are believing and perpetuating really incredibly dangerous and problematic things, and all that to say is that like it's really good to just kind of have some of the stuff out in the open to know how to and where to invest your trust and your camaraderie, and I don't know, it's just been really weird, and I can't imagine. I don't want to know who I would have been had this not happened, though, at the same time. Like, I'm really grateful to know who I am and to have learned the things that I've learned in the last few months and to have taken the time, because I feel like I have a more clear picture of what the world is and who I am in it. Even though most of that information was really disheartening, but some of it has been really good too. And I spent a significant amount of time researching my family history and actually getting to know the personalities of these people through birth and death certificates and through handwriting and through weddings and pictures, and I found some quotes and some books that feature some of my family members, and I would not have done that had these things not happened, and I'm grateful for having gotten to know them now.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. You talked about boundaries, borders, I think you said, and we've shut down borders. We're not allowed to go to Canada right now. We can't go anywhere basically if we're from the United States. And this whole pandemic, it's been about boundaries and borders and 6 feet away and masking, and people are starting to work from home, and that creates a whole different sense of changing, and like, where do you work and where's your creative space now in your home, and where do you rest? Erin, do you want to speak to that? I mean, you're a Renaissance woman who does so many different things, and how do you divide that up in your own home?
Yeah, we've actually spent quite a bit of time devising private spaces for ourselves. So what you're looking at here, this is my studio, my office, and I've got all my stuff set up in here and all my writing and everything I need. And then Jeff has his own studio and his own office. It's just, we share a wall, but it's like 2 different worlds. I wish I could go show you in the hall. And we just gave each other the permission to like decorate and spend the money and do whatever we want. Like, that is his room. We were trying to do a music room for a while that we would both use. And we realized that if we're going to be at home, it's really important that we have our own space. So I would say if you're at home with someone, if you can afford the space, even just carving yourselves out a little corner or a nook, that has helped everything for us. So sometimes we'll be here at home and we might work 8 or 9 hours straight and not talk to each other. We might text each other on our phones. You know, we have our doors shut and are in different worlds and doing our different projects. So we still, and maybe we're lucky in that way because we spent so much time alone together in the car. You know, 245,000 miles alone in a car with someone. We've learned how to be alone together, and it's just a skill that just takes some time to figure out.
But you did all that before you got married, right?
Yeah, and still got married. So, you know. But, and then the other thing I filled my space with all of the, like I'll show you, I made myself a wall with art of all people I love. Almost all the art in my room is art that friends have made for me. Almost every single thing in here. In fact, I think everything in here was made for me by a friend. So when I look at the wall, I see Heidi and I see Chris and I see Lola and and it's almost all women. So I have this women friend room that feels really supportive to me. That has made a huge difference. I was trying to work down at the kitchen table and it just felt depressing and I just out of sorts. And so we don't have a guest bedroom now, but no one's coming over. So I guess it's okay. You know, at first we thought we would have a guest bedroom for all the traveling musicians that would be staying at our house, you know, that's not happening. So that's helped a lot in keeping the creativity going. Yeah. Is that the question? I think that was the question.
Elvin, you are quarantined with your manager.
Yes, I am.
Tell us about how's that worked out.
Well,
you're also good friends, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, the kind of the initial thought about me moving into her house was the idea that I would be on tour all the time, and so now that's like, not the reality. I just cook all the time. That's what I've been doing. And
Ashley wants to live with her forever now. Doesn't Ashley wants you to live with her forever?
Maybe, but maybe you should ask her about that. But yeah, so just a lot of cooking and gardening and kind of, you know, a lot of reading and that kind of thing. And there hasn't been as much work, or at least even if there has been things that people have wanted me to do, I've been a little bit reluctant to do it. So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of people just trying to exist through this really awkward time in humanity.
Yes. Krystle, I saw you laughing a lot when we were talking about Ashley, and we know that you and Ashley go way, way back as friends. And and you were going to be coming here to Kansas City back in March to do a benefit for Ashley to help her because of her car getting basically stolen by a tow company, you know, which is horrible. But you've
that is the craziest story, by the way, and like a quintessential crazy KC story too, of like my car was stolen. Was it by a guy who has a truck like this? Yeah, actually. Oh yeah, he does that. What? You know, this guy's just cruising around. We know his name. Probably know his cousin. Oh, it's just this thing he does, you know. Like,
he just takes.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I wanted to get you into the conversation because even though you live in France, you are still so connected to Kansas City in so many ways because of your network here and all the musicians that you collaborate with here in Kansas City. And so I know when the KC bands together, that particular streaming benefit, which was a 2-night thing, I had the opportunity to introduce you, and I think we talked a little bit, we were texting back and forth, and you were just talking about how proud of Kansas City you were through that, watching that event happen, right? And how the musicians here kind of all are always here for each other, right?
Well, it's exactly what Erin was saying about how special the community is in KC. And like Erin, I don't know if that exists in any other city, in any other state. I don't know. It's, to me, it's so unique to KC how there's just this strong community. In fact, I often, when I describe KC, and this is a compliment, it may not sound like it, but I describe it as a cross between Northern Exposure and 1960s Watts, you know? Where like there's the quirkiness. Northern Exposure is my favorite show of all time.
I love that.
There's also like a little edge, you know, that's there. But somehow the two correlate, you know, it's one sphere. And yeah, you know, I was fortunate enough when I was, I think, 19 to meet Brad Cox, Bo Bledsoe, Harshbarger, you know, being invited into like the circle of the Lorca kids. Was really raised by them, and I think that's probably the core of my issues as an adult. I was brought into the darkness far too young. But no. It's for me. It's always home. You know, this is where I am. This is where my life has taken me. But home is always KC. So yeah, anytime I can be involved or just witness what's happening there, it does the heart good, you know?
Yeah. Well, it was really great to have you a part of those benefits. And recently the Green Line Grows benefit that Una Walkenhorst put together that you also contributed to also.
Hi, Una. I don't know if you're watching or not. I just want to say, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead,
you, by the way.
please. Why is it
I'm sorry?
Una is so incredible. Una Walkenhorst.
We have yet to meet, but she had reached out to my manager to know if I could contribute something to the benefit that was happening in KC. And it was actually in the midst of me moving. So I'm currently in the southwest of France now, about 5 hours away from where I used to live.
Wow.
About 5 days ago.
Wow.
And so there was this video that we had made of a cover of John Lennon's Give Me Some Truth, and I would have loved to have made something specifically for the benefit that was happening, but we'll happily do so in the future. In case you're watching, just putting that out there to her. But yes, you were saying, I am sorry.
Yeah, it was good to see that again too. I love that, seeing the band all together.
Thanks.
I guess to the whole panel, sometimes it feels like COVID-19 has taken away our future. We don't know. We don't know the future. We don't know when all this is going to end and when we can be normal again, and if we ever will be normal again. Do each of you want to just comment on that? Like, what are you envisioning for the future, and how are you preparing for that and planning for that individually? You want to go first, Krystle?
Geez.
Like
you really saved like the whopper.
Album. You have a new album that you want to put out soon, right?
Yes. So there's the album that my band, The Faculty, and I have been working on for a little over a year. That we were planning on releasing this year. Actually, I remember on the cusp of 2020. Maybe it was even on the eve. That I said to Van, the new album's coming out in 2020. And she said, yeah. And, you know, in a matter of fact, I'm like, that makes sense. We're in 2019. You're releasing it next year. That would mean it's 2020. But as I was saying, it's coming out in 2020. I was just thinking of, wow, what a number. How exciting this will be, the release. And indeed it is very exciting this year. But we've decided to hold off a bit on when it will be released. In the meantime, I won't say too much, but there is something that is in the works. As far as what I envision the future to be, going back to your whopper of a question.
Sorry about that.
Mr. Manning, no, I like it. It tickles my fancy. Did you catch that, Nick? That's something that they say in your part of the world, I think. So yeah, what I envision is that 2020 is not going to leave us quietly. There's going to be something huge. This isn't the end of it. I honestly don't know what's going to happen in November. I hope that, you know, those of us who've been playing with the Ouija board put it away, you know, and go, right, let's act like we've got some common sense here and actually vote with that common sense and not with ball caps and t-shirts or whatever else people are using. So the eternal optimism says that we will likely end up with Uncle Joe and you know, I hope that all of the passion, all of the anger that people have been carrying through this year, that they keep that up when Uncle Joe is in the Oval Office, because there is work to be done. And the worst thing that we could do, no matter who ends up in there, but wow, a changing of the guards, yeah. Whoever ends up in there, there's no going back. You know, you mentioned the word normal, and I think that we've had this idea of it, but the way that the states have functioned is abnormal, you know? So I'd like to envision a future where people don't look back, and they don't turn back. They focus on this feeling that we're all carrying with us, and we use it as a tool to ensure this never happens again, you know? I hope that we end up having more progressives coming into politics, and I hope that all of us stay politically minded. You know, that would be rad. What say you guys?
Who would like to speak to this next? Nick, what do you think?
Are you sure? Calvin looked ready there.
Oh, Kelvin.
Well, and I wanted to address, I am keeping an eye on some comments, and Diana Ennis asked something right along these lines. Reading that alarming number of artists in the UK are going to, quote, give up pursuing music as a vocation as a result of the pandemic. She's asking, have any of you considered not moving forward with your career? And otherwise, there are some other comments about affirming from other artists who are feeling some of the same things, and people are laughing and weeping and all that good stuff. So thank you for the comments. And Mark, if you can get a chance to, you might be something in there.
I'm looking over here for the first time. Sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. You know, speaking there, you know, I think what I'm taking away is that, again, I guess I'm developing a theme here, the connection. I was connection to fans, if you want, people who enjoy our music, enjoy, you know, music in general now, being such a rarity. And I think that's, you know, so the common thing what I see going forward is that I'm still going to want to make music. And again, I like that Diana used the word vocation, because, you know, vocation is a calling. You don't just drop your calling. And some people might say you can't, but you know, we do have this innate urge to create and to express something. And I think that's not going anywhere. And I think similarly, the people's need to hear that and to feel that's not going anywhere anyway either. So, I mean, the thing that's the challenge is, how do we do that these days? You know, we talk about live streams. We're going to talk about more of that next week. But you know, that's, I think, as an artist, is looking for that connection is that's not changing. And I think that's kind of what makes me feel good about it. And there's also maybe, you know, there's a vulnerability and an honesty with trying to do this now in this day and age, with this technology and everything. So, you know, real connections, you know, and again, I know this is something we've always pursued. I certainly always have. I know having worked with Erin and other folks with other conversations, it's that those connections that are actually the most important thing, and how to find them then is where it gets tricky, and everyone finds their different route to that. And I think that's what's interesting. Those routes are going to be different routes, and we're going to use technology differently. I do think the idea of going back to normal, to Calvin's point earlier, normal wasn't working, and I think in some extent that's true on the bigger societal issues, but in the music industry, they could make the same argument. I just had this conversation with my wife yesterday or the day before. We always ask ourselves, how are people consuming music? Just because it's a question we feel like you need to check in on. And we know what a live concert is like, but what does it mean to release an album, and what are the connections that we know we can have a handle on, and that we can propel us forward, and what are some of the other things that we have to do that are kind of more a bit of a shot in the dark and kind of hark back to older elements of the music industry. So I think just seeking those connections and finding ways to be effective to express whatever it is we're trying to express. That's kind of going forward. The future is that question to me. What does that look like? And trying to answer it in a way, and watching what other people are doing and being inspired and moving in the right direction. And then, of course, what everything Krystle just said about the larger political and where we are as a society, as a country, a community. But we're not going to stop doing that. So I don't think we're going to give it up. I think we just have to figure out how we're going to do it, and noticing along the way things are encouraging, things that work, things that other people are doing. That's part of it for me. So definitely leaning on peers and friends and other artists. That's the way forward, I think.
Thank you for that. Kelvin, do you want to talk to the future? Or would you rather answer Sam Wiseman's question, which is, how are you all so amazing?
Sam Wiseman is amazing. Sam Wiseman is also amazing.
Take your pick, Kelvin.
I think I'll talk about the future.
Okay.
I think everybody who is on this planet has been very much permanently affected by this time, and like I said, I think there's a lot of things that were kind of the elephant in the room that we got really good at hanging our clothes on, instead of addressing it, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing, with that level of vulnerability and that level of honesty and that level of clarity and precision with language, and but that these conversations that we're having now that we were not having before, I hope that we get closer to a utopia faster, and that is what the future looks like. And I was listing a few of my favorite shows that I've done, just as a kind of funny conversation with a bandmate, and I looked at that list as all of my favorite shows that I've ever done are ones that I lost money doing, and if I was in this career to make money, it's not what I'm here for. So I'm gonna find other ways to lose money really fun. And because I'm in it for the decadence, and in it for the that connection, and I'm exploring new ways to do that, and that's what I'm in it for. So I'm absolutely not going to stop being an artist, but I would love to also find better and more useful ways to use money, because that's also a skill that I need to grow in, because because it's just not a part of that. Like how can you maybe not need, I don't know, set things up in your life so that you don't need as much. And honestly, a lot of my major expenses before this was traveling and producing shows. And so it's like, wow, like I really can live on a lot less than I thought I could, because there's nowhere to eat, and like there's nothing to do. So Anyway, I think that the future is positive, even if the present can be quite daunting and scary.
Thank you. How about you, Erin? Do you want to put?
Yeah, I want to, everything that everyone else said, I'm in complete agreement with. And I do think, Krystle, what you're talking about, this, it's like you're talking about this shift, or there's a, I think shift was the word you used, but I almost see it like a leap. Like if people talk about the great leap forward, I actually think we're in it. And it's almost a breaking of the way it was before that can't be glued back together and shouldn't be. And that was to your point, that Kevin was, so I'm ready for the great leap forward. I'm ready for it. And I, like all of you said, don't think there's any going back. And I'm not sure we should. And I think it's gone on too long and is going to continue to go on too long, that we're already changed. I have a poem that starts, the truth is that every experience has the potential to change us forever. And this is a before and an after. And once you've experienced something, acknowledged it, you can't unsee it, you can't unknow it. And that's what's happened to us, to all of us collectively. And I read somewhere that someone said, we're not all in the same boat, but we all are in the same storm. So that collective experience, I think, will be the heart of that connection, Nick. I think ultimately we have so much division about everybody's in different boats, but we are all in the same storm, like it or not. And it's not over. So I have hope for that as well, that I think that connection, and I think that we're going to be writing about that and talking about that for years and years and years to come, that it's going to change the kernel of the art, I think, for so many of us. For me personally, to Diana's question, well, for me, we were professional touring artists, so we were making our living on the road. So there's a very delicate balance between, as you said, Calvin, how much your overhead is touring, which is super high. We basically just lived in the flow of that money coming in and out. It's not, and when it stops, the flow it dies off. So it was terrifying. But I also think that is both permission and necessity to change the way that we're doing our art, the way that we're making our money. And in some ways we were getting very tired, 8 years on the road. I mean, it's been a lot. It's been thousands of performances. It's just everything Mark said. So in some ways, while it was shocking, it's also been permission to think about doing it in a different way. And there's some accountability and some energy and some poke to that. Like, okay, so it's our Victor and Penny's 10-year anniversary, which I can't even believe. That's this October. Thank you. We were going to have a big show at the American Theater. We're going to do some stuff with Casotic. And, well, we're not going to have a big 500-person show in October. That's not going to happen. And then we had this new work. So I've been working on this whole new body of work that Jeff and he's doing some music for it, and it's all spoken word. And I was going to have a big performance of that with lights and dancers, and really inspired by your love song show, Krystle, with Brad. And well, we're not doing that either. So I just thought last week, I think what we're going to do is record all those songs anyway in the studio and make little videos, which we've never really done. We have lots of live videos, but we've never really made videos. And I thought, well, what fun. We're going to start down a whole new path. And that has its own energy. It wasn't what we were thinking, but I think it's going to be good. And I think that's the way the artists are going to survive. And that's what we're great at. We're great at pivoting. We're great at making something where there was nothing, and leaning on each other and collaborating. So Krystle, I'm calling you because we're
I'm picking up.
We're getting close to the end of our time, but I want to just say something really quick. Doing the radio show every week has been my creative way of kind of continuing on. And I've just been so impressed with, despite all of the craziness, musicians are still making music and still releasing new music every week, and good music too. And all of you we talked about artists as first responder, but also the artist as comforter. All of you have comforted so many people in difficult times through your music. And music is one of those ways that has connected all of us and been a balm to the wounds of what we're living through. So to each one of you individually, Nick, Kelvin, Krystle, Erin, thank you for your music, because it's meant so much to me. And it's really been the way that I've kept myself from being crazy, you know, is being able to have this music in my life and to know where it came from and how beautiful all of you are for making it. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. We love you.
Mark, you're amazing. Thank you for being the voice for all of us for as long as I've been in Kansas City. You've been leading us all with your kindness and your commitment to our community. And it seems like there'll be a lot more of that going on.
Exactly.
Yes, we have lots of love in this whole group of people here. Really, it's there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Well, I guess that is our time. Thank you. And one thing, and just to get on the back of that, Mark, you know, you are a part of this, and I want to say that personally. And you're part of the music industry and the community. And I think we want to talk about that. That's our third session that for the MixMaster. We're kind of opening it up to more than just artists and songwriters and people who create music, but the people without whom we would not be able to do any of that. That's kind of our third week. So 2 weeks from today, we're calling it Keeping the Lights On with a focus on venues. But really, there are so many people affected by this. I'm encouraged to see some of I know yesterday was one movement with all the red lights, venues shone red lights in their front doors and windows. And I hope that those kind of things, you know, they don't just turn into one-day things. This needs to be constant reminder in people's minds of people of power who can do things to support the wider industry and not just artists. Because like you guys said, we're not going to start making art, but we don't do it in a vacuum. We don't do it on our own. So anyway, that's something from a MixMaster perspective. We want to make sure that we're understanding the entire industry and our part in it. But sounds like we're done for this evening. Thank you so much, Mark Manning. Thank you so much for hosting, for your fantastic insight and questions. And thank you to everyone commenting. We got a lot of love validating people's feelings. People are looking forward to the future. More questions about how we're being inspired, but I think we touched on pretty much everything. There's not much that's unanswered. Except for a question on live streaming, which is a perfect segue to next week when we are going to be talking about ways to stay connected with audiences and ways to share your music in this funny time. Mark, Erin, Krystle, Calvin, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone joining in. Tune in again, 4 p.m. next week. It's going to be the same deal. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
Thanks, Erin, Calvin, Mark. Good to see you all.
Love you all. Love you all.
Love you.